we are back. Thank you again for joining us today during the inaugural Peasant Eternal Spring Open. We have our top 8 after 5 rounds with quite a few 4-1s and 3-2s. We've got Phoenix versus A-Boss, Marvin the Imp versus Almost, a rerun of a previous round, Spifferific versus Lord Perth, and Random7945 against Applechips. And we're going to be featuring Random versus Applechips for this top 8 match. It is going to be Lifeforce versus Revenge. And now let's see what the deck lists were for this top cut. We have 1 AP mid, or AP Valkyries with Spifferific. Random has the Soul FJS Revenge. We've got a Mandrake's Mirror in the top 8, so we'll definitely see one of those in top 4. And then we have Skycry Control ×2 and Xenan Lifeforce ×2. What do you think of this field, Jedi?
I think it's awesome. I mean, there's a lot of Shadow. So Shadow's strong, unfortunately, which is no surprise. Shadow's always packs the best removal, packs the best recursion.
And there's nothing... Vinegrafter.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. There you go. That's exactly it. Vinegrafter. Vinegrafter with access to shielding your best creature as well as machinations to get Vinegrafter back. So it's a kind of an auto include, unfortunately, right? It's there's absolutely no reason not to run it. It's got all the things you want. It's a 2-drop. It has a life to give, at least. It protects another thing and gives you access to your market. Like, what more could you ask for? And that's exactly what we're seeing here. That's why Shadow is so highly represented in the top 8.
Yeah, we also see a breakout deck in Skycry Control, 3 of which were in the field and 2 of which were in the top 8. So I think that's a good turnover rate. We've got Xenan Lifeforce, which was an old mechanic that got refreshed with the Hive Hexagon, as well as FJS Revenge playing an interesting weapons variant, and AP mid featuring our like Valkyries and martial efficiency and Watchwing support. So I think it's a nice spread of 6 different decks in our top 8. Nothing is like overly prevalent. Obviously, Shadow, as you said, is quite prevalent, and Vinegrafter and removal spells play a good part in that. Oddly enough, like the aggro decks that we have in this top 8 are the Lifeforce ones.
Yeah, which is interesting because I think they've just given the deck a little more the tools they needed to be a little bit faster, right? And that's mainly the thing that we saw initially with the Lifeforce deck is they take a second, they get on the board early, but because they're an engine-based deck, it takes a second to get the engine going.
Yeah.
And now we're just seeing them have a curve out that just puts so much pressure on the opponent that, yeah, exactly that. It's kind of surprising where they don't need to get 5, 6, 7 life gain triggers. They just need 2 or 3 and they're in business.
Absolutely. And we are good to go for our top 8 match between Random and Applechips. We're going to be in Applechips' seat this time. Let's see what we got here.
Which is quite humorous because I believe in Constructed, Applechips actually piloted Valkyries to a tournament winner, at least a top 8, correct?
Applechips, I don't believe has a win, but was the progenitor of, I think made a top 4 or a finals with Valkyries in Peasant and was the first and kind of only person to do that Argenport style. Because there were a few FJS Valkyries earlier.
Mm-hmm. Right, so we're looking at Applechips, 3 power, Spiteful Strike, 2 Hives, and a Vinecrafter. So the ultimate curve out here, I guess, would be Vinegrafter on 2, Hive on 3, then 4 go Hive plus Spiteful Strike to trigger. I think this is keepable.
Yeah, I wouldn't be unhappy to keep this. Let's give the players the go-ahead to start.
Do we want to do the reset for Random's hand, or is it still good?
What's up? Oh, the hand cam is not a mole cam, so as soon as Random keeps their hand,
oh, okay, got you. Okay, cool.
All right. And they are given the go-ahead, so they will start whenever they are ready. I'm not unhappy to keep this hand. I think that going like Vine Grafter on 2 into Hive Hexagon into the Spiteful Strike to trigger 2Bs is a decent enough start. What
Yeah,
you
I
really
mean,
good.
you're adding 4/4 worth of stats to the board every single time you gain life, and that's pretty potent, right?
Absolutely. And I'm not sure how many ways to remove Hive Hexagon that Random is playing, so it's just a matter of can you present enough threats to the board early on to where Random doesn't have time to start his engine.
Mm-hmm.
We've got
Firing
an
off
early
that
to
defile.
file. Yeah, I can agree with that. Not letting your opponent get a bunch of lifesteal units is quite good. Ooh, so do we play Arcanum Seeker as a 2?
I
Is
think I
that
would just, yeah, I like the hexagon play. I think
yeah?
you're kind of making investments now to pay off most of the later. I like it. You're mana efficient, you're using all your mana. Next turn, you have the ability for here they can double spell if they want to, which it looks like that's exactly what they're going to do. So I like the play. I like the play. You're not under any pressure, so you can kind of get that online. You
Yeah, that is the
know,
one thing about the revenge deck. It really doesn't apply pressure early, aside from just gaining a bunch of life with stuff like the Stonepower Alchemist and Piercing Grief.
yep.
Oh, that's so many hives.
Yeah.
Oh
And see, that's the
goodness.
thing too, though. Hive is going to set it up to where once Applechips is unfortunately top decking because of the discard from random, then you're going to have 2 or 3 hives in play that can kind of recoup that loss of card advantage
Yep,
through virtual card advantage.
absolutely.
And of course,
However, random does have these full tilts that once this 04 becomes a 4/4 due to the life gain, these full tilts are going to have full effect. So keeping uh, Applechips off of a life gain outlet, because Applechips is not playing the banner or the painting variant where all of your power also trigger life. I think the only power in the deck that gains life is the Waystone.
ooh, all right, that's going to be a good. Huh. That's gonna be it's gonna be interesting to see how much of a difference that makes because that
Yep,
does make it to where there are straight up dead draws for Applechips.
absolutely. I know
Recombat.
in testing, I was playing around with the idea of splashing the paintings that splash for red, so you can have some cool fire cards in your market
Mm-hmm.
as a like, hey, like I'm playing these just for life gain, but I can also grab this interesting card sometimes, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I I can see that block from random. Getting both of your units into the discard pile to start the revenge train is probably where you want to be,
Yeah.
especially when you have a display in hand.
Well, it's what you mentioned that earlier, right? You definitely mentioned where the important thing is to get your revenge creatures back into your library so you could start drawing extra cards. And so if he's gonna open up the opportunity,
Oh,
ooh, okay,
that's
okay.
so good. So we play this on probably one of the flyers or just the grafter maybe, or not at all.
My
With
instinct
no
is to
lifesteal trigger. Are we playing it on ourselves?
uh,
My instinct is to not want to play it on yourself because of things like piercing grief and the Stonepetter Alchemist, because it's
mhm,
going to gain you life and deal damage directly to the weapon and break it.
yeah.
So I don't want to have a relic weapon on me, especially one that's so small.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything in the market that they would get over that would be greater than just adding more to the board right now, right?
All right.
Ooh, and it was a good
So,
call. It was a good call because they would have potentially lost it. Full tilt gonna clean up most of this board, but I
yep,
mean,
but
unless
then
they can figure out how to do something about that weapon, it's just gonna gain them 2 more or 4 more life and 3 more flyers.
absolutely. So we are going to probably see just another attack into the face.
Yeah, and unfortunately, getting back creatures does not trigger ambush, so they're not gonna take the hit from the weapon.
Well, it would kill the weapon if they had Enter the Unknown, because that if
True,
grabbing a
yeah,
shadow
yeah,
unit will
yep.
break the weapon.
Or if it was alchemist,
Hmm.
but
But the Alchemist is currently on top of their deck, I think.
all right. So I can see now it makes sense that the patients from Applechips wanting to wait.
Okay, so this is choosing and making, or this is just making them discard a single card of, yeah. All right, all right. So you use that to draw an extra card, discard a power probably here. I'm still very interested in what the use case for this Shugo standard is.
Yeah, I think they just figured that they only needed so much power and
Right, like in
too
some of the
many
builds that I've toyed
decisions.
around with, like I haven't even worried about the sigils. I've just played a
Yeah,
bunch of depleted power because the deck eventually will start displaying tomes untapped.
yeah. Like I said, I think
Ooh,
the
that was a
big one
great
is
draw.
just to pump a lifesteal unit.
Yep, and I think
Yeah,
that's gonna be the game unless we can top deck another full tilt. We did not.
yeah.
So
Triple hive is pretty darn good.
yeah, it is quite good. Reminds me of the like triple rat cage draws where you play rat cage, then double rat cage, and just swarm
Yeah,
them with rats. It's the same principle. If a card
yeah,
is good as a singleton, it's probably good as a 3F.
yeah. Exactly. Play a power, gain 2 life, add 6/6 flying to the board. Seems like a
Yep,
pretty good deal.
absolutely. This seems like a matchup probably in Applechips' favor. The aggro deck is probably favored against a revenge deck, but having full tilt does give some leeway into random's chances here. It's just a matter of trying to avoid those hive hexagons, which can be
Yeah,
answered by gorillas.
yeah. And then that's literally what it was,
Yep.
honestly. Even if it was just one hexagon hive, then I think it would have been an entirely different game. But the fact that literally the turn after the board wipe, they were able to generate a board again. That's really how you get those lists. Whenever if you can rebuild after a board wipe and they don't have a second one, that's typically the cause it for game. And
Absolutely.
that's what we saw. Like twice, you dealt with the board, a bunch of 3/2/2s, dealt with the board, a bunch of 2/2s again. Like that's too much for an aggro deck to come back from.
Okay. Looks like we got our next game up. Let's head on down.
All
Oh,
right.
this is a hand from Applechips. What do we got from Random? Oh, another solid hand. Okay, this is gonna be a game. I think both of these are quite capable.
I agree. I agree. Plenty of 1 drops. They can scribe if they need to. It's both players are going to get to play their game plan, which is exciting. That's what you want to see, right? You want to see 2 decks doing what they're supposed to do and then find out who comes out on top. And that's exactly what we're going to see here, which is awesome.
Absolutely. Okay, so I've got to imagine that yeah, we play this first. We can play the Colt Aspirant as you need to, but without a way to actually gain life right now, it may be better to not.
So, question, and this I'll ask it in between rounds. There's something popped into my head, but I'll wait. It's not
Okay,
too relevant. It's deck design, so we'll wait.
sure.
All right, so we're seeing the grief come down, gain some life, go back to the top of the deck.
And then we're going
More,
to see the same play next turn. Or maybe we
yeah.
wait until the fourth turn so we can play Grief, attack, hit, and then also devour it. We can just play a Vinegrafter here. Yeah, there you go. So that can give the... I wonder if you try to give the Grief regen beforehand. Because that could lead you down a line of immortalizing a regen Grief
Mm-hmm.
as a weapon, which could stabilize a
All
hard
right.
board.
Well, we see the trigger happen, and they still get to also leave up victimless crime. So this has got to feel pretty good for Applechips right now.
I wonder if this is not victimless crime, if they just take the damage because they're going to devour this year. So I don't know that I would care to kill anything here with victimless crime other than maybe the 1/1. Oh, this is going to be a very valuable devour now. Oh,
Yeah.
goodness.
Oh, that is fantastic for
That
random.
patience. That patience. And now the victimless crime is going to, or sorry, the devourer is going to draw them into a power here. Yeah.
Okay. let's see. I mean, this is still a lot of damage coming across the board with no Alchemist on the top of the deck. So
It is, but Applechips just top decked a power, which means that Random knows that there are no lifesteal units off the top. Why are we not just full tilting here while they have nothing?
that is interesting.
Okay.
So wait, are they just
Dead?
wait? Huh. I kind of agree
It's
with you. Did we miss something? They played it for two, so they had the undepleted power.
right.
They're
Huh.
top decking. Okay, all right. I'll trust. I'll trust the system. Okay,
And
so there's
is
stumble.
there's one Piercing Grief on the top of the deck, right? Because one was drawn off of uh, the draw from Devour and got canned.
Yep.
So there's
Yeah.
some way to gain more life. Yeah, which is what I assume is happening here. Yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna need it because oh, and the devour. Okay, all right, all right.
Nice.
So things are looking
Very
better.
solid.
Power
That
before they
was the
lose the
best draw they could
unit.
have had there.
Devour. Yep, yep. Reset the hand.
Oh,
Defile. Another power from Applechips. You hate to see it.
goodness.
Hate to see it, man. All
And this
right.
is double Piercing Griefs.
Yep. Nope. Grafter instead.
Okay.
Gain some life. Go back up to 8. They drew another full tilt. They're gonna go to the market.
Probably get
Cash
rid
in.
of the Defile. Or do you just not care about the cannon anymore?
No, I think it's you get rid of the cannon. The defile lets you cleanly deal with their stuff regardless how big.
Sure. And then
Okay.
we're going to get the Grief back with Exalted this time, which is a more surefire way to continue gaining life,
Mm-hmm.
which is going to put Random solidly in this game again. And will probably push us to a game 3.
Yeah, it's starting to really shift in Random's favor. Like his board presence is all right now. He does double removal spell with a win con with extra power. I think it's starting to close the door
Yeah.
on Applechips here.
It's at the point where you start the plan of, I want to get back my Piercing Grief with Exalted, that you're like, okay, full tilt is no longer the plan.
Ugh, what a bummer. I think Applechips
Oh,
did everything
goodness.
right there. Unfortunately, it just
And that's an interesting not using display to put in an extra 6 damage, which means that the cannon would have been a lethal line. However, I don't think it matters a whole lot, because this could just be grabbing one with Exalted to make another weapon. Yeah, so if this was the line either way, I wonder why not just attack for 6.
me either way. Cannon's gonna deal.
Oh, it's because it's a lethal line this turn because they don't die at the end of turn until the end of your turn.
Gotcha.
That
Okay.
was
All
the
right.
line. Okay, that makes
All
sense.
right. Well done, Random. Well done. That was close. That was real close. I think literally, yeah, it just, don't get me wrong. Both players played well, but drawing essentially 4 blanks in a row is definitely enough to let your opponent take the lead. You're
Absolutely.
drawing 2 power and two
Two combat
combat
tricks.
tricks with no units in
Yeah.
play, then.
Yeah.
But they got their engine online. We saw their deck do exactly what they were trying to do, and it paid off for them. So good job.
Yep. That was a solid close call where I think Random ended up at 2 life or 1 life at some
Two,
point.
two.
2, yeah. Which wasn't actually enough to play Display of Ambition. So you have to gain 1 more life or you end up dying to the display.
Yeah, it was close, real close. I think
Right.
any other kind of there's no charge on the Xenan side,
I don't
so
think so. There was a variant. I'm not even sure if Applechips deck is playing Faithful.
ooh, here we go.
Yeah,
Hexagon
this is
Hive with the Hive weapon, so
okay.
seems like and they're shipping it. Okay, all right, this hand
Okay,
looks
this hand
great.
looks
Yeah,
great. Absolutely. So let's see. Applechips is playing.
they got two of the revenge creatures off the top. They get to play it on curve thanks to the scroll. I think is
So
what it is.
I didn't notice this earlier. Applechips isn't actually playing Nahid's Faithful, the 1 mana 2/2 with lifesteal. that can sack a unit when it comes into play to get +2/+2.
Oh, okay.
I was wondering why we hadn't seen it, and I was looking through the list and I'm like, oh, that, huh? Okay,
There's
because there
that's probably where the hive stingers came in from, I'm guessing.
maybe that is also a way to quote unquote have charge is with a relic weapon.
Yeah, and that would have made the difference when they were at 2. So
Mm-hmm.
it was touch and go
Absolutely.
for sure. See your power from Applechips, call the hit, taking out the revenge. That's gonna let them get in some damage. That's gonna trigger, get a 4/4. Things are looking pretty good. There's those
Yeah.
Shugo tactics again.
But as soon as that we draw that Stone Pad Alchemist again, those Through the Unknowns and the displays is gonna really get some value, especially with this Devour to combo it off with.
Yep. Power. Gonna play the
Hive Stinger.
Stinger. All right, yeah, I can get behind that. Make it bigger. Make it bigger. Now they do have an answer if they choose to, but we've
Right.
seen them not use the display strictly as a reanimation spell versus a
Yeah.
removal.
As the Revenge deck, you never want to play that card for any other except for the Overwhelm mode when you know it's lethal.
Yeah, fair, fair. All right, back up to 16. They lose the grief, call the hit, will take care of the blocker again, and they still get to hold on to victimless crime, but
Well,
they don't know about the double.
yeah.
Yeah.
The double Through the Unknown, which I don't even know if you play both of them. I think you might just play one of them to break the Vine Grafter's regen, so
Yeah.
that your full tilts are now lethal.
Play one of them, see what you draw.
Like, I don't think you want to play both because you're a little bit choked up on power, and you may want to play Through the Unknown and then Devour for power.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right, all right. We're getting back the Alchemist, and then we're blocking the 2/2? Or are we blocking the 6/5 to not take as much damage? Ooh, victimless crime to get rid of the blocker. So that's going to be a nice 10 damage coming through. Unless they have the second one.
Yep.
Never where you want to be, but sometimes where you gotta be.
Hey, I mean,
Oh, they're
saves
going
a
for the
ton of
trade.
life.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I
And they're
can
still at a
respect that.
comfortable 14. They get to untap.
So I think we play one grafter, one. Oh no, we're just holding up the display
Yep.
here.
Yep.
I do wonder if you just like play a grafter to chump the 6/5 and play the grief to get in for 3 life. Because that'll make those displays even better
Or you
if
could
there's a
just
grief on
double
top.
block. Yeah, but you could double block and get the 6/5 off of it.
That's true.
Which I would not be surprised if that's what we see. Yep, that's
There you
exactly what
go.
we see. So all the forms of life gain off the table. Applechips probably going to go ahead and hold on to this Waystone, the trigger, whenever they get a life force.
Absolutely.
And now we're seeing top decking to practically a full grip and ways to draw some additional cards. Oh yeah, geez, this deck it's starting to kick in the nitrous. Like, look at this, look at this. Devour a bunch of creatures,
Yeah.
revenge. Go to market, a win con.
Absolutely. If I see a Revenge deck win this tournament, I will 100% lock in Revenge for Marvin's tournament. I was already on
I'm
the fence, but oh goodness, it would be
I
great.
don't know, man. Valkyrie's Revenge, they both speak to my heart. And I don't know, Marvin kind of started to sell me on this control list. I kind of want to splash green, but for Awaken the Heavens, but
Yep, From the Heavens is
or
also
from the Heavens. There
very
you go.
good. It's just, I don't know if you consistently have enough time to get all the way there.
No, you don't need to. It's just
Not in
that
the
way in
same
the
way that
deck.
Combre Ramp can.
Yeah.
Combre Ramp was also very good. And if you were expecting. Honestly, I think Combre Ramp can just crush the Skycrag control deck too.
So here's my thing. Yeah, see, I think I would have waited until attacks to
Yeah.
do the Devour.
Mm.
I mean, but then again, they're the ones that are in the tournament and doing
Yeah, so
way better.
it's the lines are always very interesting with Grief, where you like, do you want to do an end step and then wait until the next turn to attack and then Devour afterwards? Do you want to use it as a blocker? Do you want to use it during your turn to attack this current turn? there's a lot of things that go into like when you want to draw cards at what times. This is going to be a nice like probably just
Oh, he
defile the
can kill. Yeah,
grafter and then full tilt. Sure.
and
Well,
then hit it with the cannon.
no, I think you want to save the cannon. Again, the cannon is the way that you win the game. Oh, there you go. Have Hexagon off the top. With no
Yeah,
way to
with
trigger
no
the
life
lifesteal
gain.
so far. So do we... Oh, goodness. Play Grafter, activate... For
So
what?
many lines.
What do we have in this FJS deck?
Oh,
Oh, we got to immortalize. Yep, we're just going to the same line again, which is reasonable. Like that's just a
yeah. I
solid line
mean,
overall.
exactly. It's what the deck's designed to do. Okay. They have the regen shield, so these are going to be safe blocks even with the curtain call.
Is readable block on the 4/4? Oh, never mind. We make all the good blocks and
Yep.
force them to have the things.
Yep. So I
Solid.
think, I mean, it is unfortunate. Oh, well.
This is
Wait.
a good thought process. Like, do you actually care about the 4/4 dying, or do you want to have this 2/1 in play?
No, you want this anyways because it's going to give you the 2/2 flyer and give you a board.
No, what I'm saying is like, on random side, do
Oh,
you
yeah,
care
yeah.
about blocking to kill or not?
Yeah, gotcha.
One grafter again.
Now you go get
The
web.
the smuggler
Yeah, that's what I'm
stash.
talking about. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Has this grafter on Applechips side gone to the market yet? I don't think
Yes,
it
yes. The
has.
first one got the
On
immortalize, and
Applechips'
then the
side?
second one. Oh, I'm sorry, Applechips. Yes, the right. This is the one that grabbed machinations.
Okay, sure.
So many grafters, hard to keep track of.
And cards are just immediately leaving people's hands. Alright, so this is killing that, and then we're just going to Smuggler Stash instead of amplifying Ember
Yeah, I
Crumbs.
guess the fact that they're gaining life means they don't necessarily care about a lonely 4/4 now. So
Yeah.
that makes sense. Yeah. Pay 5, draw 4. Seems good.
Well, it was pay 5, draw 1 weapon, 2 units, into play, 2 cards. So it's pay 5. Oh, were there 2 weapons in the discard pile?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, okay.
2 cannons. That's why they fired off the cannon first to
Yeah.
kill the life thing, the life steal. Oh, this is sweet, man.
This is coming down to the wire. I think, yep, Applechips is raking it in.
Nice. Congratulations, Applechips. Or I'm sorry, Random.
Well, congrats on top 8 Applechips. Congrats, Random, for locking in at least $25 in the top 4.
Nice. That was absolutely great. Absolutely great. Like it was like, man, I don't know. Maybe it was just the deck feels very hot and cold, doesn't it? It feels like if you get your engine going,
Yep.
then like you're doing some really broken things. But when you're not, it's kind of like, what'd you bring to the tournament?
Yeah, so the main reason that I wanted to bring Touch was that you only can play so many good cards with Revenge in the main deck. Adding Touch like means that you get to play with more Revenge cards, so your engine is bigger. What you wanted to talk about something about deck building was that
It was just if with the inclusion, because I've seen a decent amount of cheaper lifesteal units coming
Sure.
from Justice now. Is there any incentive in these Lifeforce decks to go 3-color for the green creatures that come into play with lifesteal and maybe even some invasion or protection?
So it's not only the green creature or the green units, it's also the fact that you start getting to play paintings. Like I was mentioning earlier, you get to play the Combre
like
painting,
Combre, yep.
and I think that's it. I don't think the Argenport has the painting either. But you get access to Deathwing. You get access to the 1 mana 1/1 with Exalted in Lifesteal, the Unseen. I can't remember what it's called.
Oh yeah. That's a good one. That's a strong one.
And then you obviously get Stonepetal Alchemist as well as your 3.
Ooh.
So those are all
Ooh,
like interesting things to become more mid-range because I don't think you're counted as more like an aggro deck anymore, and I think
yeah.
the version that Applechips is playing is more of an aggro deck.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you lean more into the mid-range shell, and I think you could probably start running Machination's main deck at that point.
Oh yeah, you can get some serious value off of that for sure.
All right, we are ready to go to our other top 8 match, and this is against Phoenix and A-Boss.
Let's do it.
This is it game 3? It is game 3, all right. It is the Mandrake Mirror. I know, the matchup everyone wanted to see.
Sweet. Just whip out the chalkboard and start putting the 200 life versus 80 life, and then after the turn, 200 life versus the 80 life the other way.
Right, right. It is worth noting that these are actually quite different. Let's check it out. A-Boss is playing with the... and I'm going to take you for a trip here. A-Boss is playing Sporefolk and Gravitor Trainee in order to discard cards to trigger Darkwater Vines and make Shoal Treasure cost less. They're also playing Send a Message. So when you randomly discard your cards through Sporefolk and Darkwater Vines, you can like pay your extra 2 mana to make them sacrifice a unit and discard a card from their hand. They're also playing a Mandrake I've never seen in a Mandrake deck before, Corpse Bloom. A 7-cost 7/7 with Endurance. Summon, put an enemy unit into its owner's hand, corrupted 3.
You, oh wait, you mean just in tournament play, right? Because in limited, that thing was a
Sure.
house.
I mean, I had never seen it play like put in a deck, like
Okay.
not drafted. Just like I chose to put this card on my deck. I've never seen it in play in a peasant environment. I'm excited to see the wild stuff that A-Boss is going to do here. And then let's see what Phoenix is bringing to the table with their deck. And this is also interesting. Like I've seen a lot of innovations in Mandrakes, especially with the 12 market variant. I wonder if Phoenix is on that 12 market variant. Let's see. No, Phoenix is on the more general, like ultimate variation with bars, favors, and victimless crimes as removal
Is
and
there
life can
is
trigger.
there any reanimation at uncommon, or are they
Uh,
all rare?
if we're talking about like Aramot's machinations, haunting
No, no, like
scream,
directly into play.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Other than shoal strings, obviously, because
Yeah,
Mandrakes have
yeah,
access to shoal strings.
yeah. I was just curious to see if there was some type of reanimator at the uncommon level.
I mean, there's a felon dredge deck if that counts, because it's a haunting scream variant.
The
It's arguable that a lot of these decks could be considered as reanimating decks. Like Mandrakes plays 4 of Shoal Stirrings and 1
yeah,
of Aramot's Machinations. Dredge plays 4 of Haunting Scream and then plays a bunch of Dark Returns and whatnot. There's the Revenge deck that reanimates cards directly into play by drawing them. Like all of these decks can be considered as reanimate decks, right?
yeah. Good point. Good point.
All right, what do we got here? We've got I don't know if these grafters have been activated. We've got a grafter in hand that has obviously not been activated, and the power to play it and activate it. But otherwise, a pretty stalemate board, 31-11. Putting
Yeah, but
away
then
one of
we
the
also see a
grafters.
we also see a machinations just sitting in the hand, so
Hmm.
this can drastically change the next turn.
Interesting. So
I
they
think I think
decided to put the grafter away in favor of just having both the power to guarantee playing a machinations next turn.
I think what I think these mandrakes for the mirror breaker need to start playing like primal to give them flying or something.
So there's the
Or
uh,
transform. Primal does give you access to polymorph style effects, right?
it gives you access to polymorph. It gives you access to feeding time. It gives you access if you want to go that deep into primal sigils. The mandrake that says when it attacks, your other mandrakes get +1 attack and overwhelm, which would
Mm-hmm.
then give them
Mm-hmm.
overwhelm and deadly, which is really sweet. And
Yep,
then
that's definitely a mirror breaker.
as a summon effect, it deals with opposing lords by turning them into a 3/3 Mandrake.
Yeah, that's actually yeah. I think there's something there, honestly, because if we moving forward, we start to see Mandrake still being the elephant in the room and being the number one deck that people bring to tournaments, then you definitely got to start figuring out ways of breaking the mirror, so we're not sitting here for an hour just swapping life totals.
The problem with that becomes how much are you sacrificing in your deck construction as far as like power bases are concerned, as far as like how many ultimate ways to trigger ultimates are you removing to add in these other cards. I think Mandrakes is the deck that has the biggest considerations when it comes into all of the moving pieces, because you're playing like X number of ways to trigger ultimates so that you can uh, trigger your mandrakes that like to see ultimates being triggered, and then you also want to pack like some number of ways to gain life so that your venomous nightshade is triggering. You want to have some number of ways to discard cards so that your the creeping vine, the 1 mana 1/1 is triggering its ultimate ability. It's a balancing act among the Mandrake decks to figure out what you want to do most. Like Abos has gone more into the combo element of trying to get these Shoal Dredgers out into play as quickly as possible while also disrupting the opponent via send a message.
Yeah, it you're right. It there's so many nuances that you can design within the same archetype to make it an entirely different deck. These are two prime examples of it. So I do think that you don't necessarily have to go outside of that and still kind of have your own touch and diversity of it. I was just hoping they just eat themselves out of the format, and then people, then there's a stint where no one's playing Mandrakes because they're all horrible, and then they come back and it kind of ebbs and flows. So there you go, one reanimation spell followed up by another one on the other side of the board.
Absolutely.
Oh man.
And Phoenix knows it's coming. Again, as we talked about earlier, a lot of the Mandrake cards have fate and will showcase their arrival. Not much that Phoenix can do about it, though, given that A-Boss has the power. I think it's just A-Boss is currently looking through the discard pile like, what do I want most right now?
Yep.
And we're choosing to do this before combat. As
Yeah.
I think this is I don't have anything better in my discard pile, so I hope you kill it so I can reanimate it. Yep.
Yep. Good call.
Seeing that 7 cost Shoal Dredger, I think that was the only like 2 units in the void.
Huh. Hey, I mean, it's still value, right? Now, whatever they draw off the top of their deck is live to go to the market.
Yep. And now I've got this Nightshade in play, but I don't think there's any way to gain life. Yeah. Oh, but we're going to the market via the Vine Grafter and triggering both of them to lord up the field again. And getting that flyer. That's another way to break the mirror.
Yeah,
Is
there's
just to
that
have
combo.
that flyer. Yeah.
There's that combo you're talking about as far as overwhelm and deadly.
Yep.
The unfortunate thing is that the larger life total is across the board, so it's not enough to break stalemate, but it's something.
It's a start.
Interesting with the block. Oh, okay. They wanted to break the regen shield. That makes sense.
And there's the fly trap to stop them from playing the flyer immediately. Although I'm pretty sure A-Boss is probably just going to slam this one down. I can't imagine that you wait very long on it, so...
I mean, you know they went to the market, right? And it's open deck
true.
list, so you
It's
can
true.
maybe try to figure out what they got going on.
It's probably a call between, did they grab the flying one or the one that can trigger another ultimate to make their board bigger again. And we're gonna decide to nice market Gangalomite.
Refill the hand. I like that. I like that. They're still looking for the power, but making a risk now to have a huge investment later.
Yeah.
Trigger. So there's another timer on the clock here.
Yeah,
9 is a lot.
The market for A-Boss is Bone Music, Lights Out, Mandrake, Simulacri, D'Angelo-Mite, and Armand's Machinations. Lights Out is a... Oh, unleash kill an enemy unit for 4.
Oh man, this is starting to look a little. I mean, that's a lot of damage coming across the board. So this cushion of a life total isn't looking very good. And then they're what best case scenario they draw power and get to draw 8 cards, but they're taking the turn off. Ooh.
Yeah, it's rough. It looks like this one's gonna go to Phoenix unless something remarkable happens, like a second Shoal Starrings or something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Even then, I'm not even sure that gets them back with looking down 4-2 Little Seeds as like the weakest things on the board. I guess there's a 2-2 Speedcrafter.
All right, up to 43.
And no power.
No
But we
power.
do have this Nightshade, which is going to give the units deadly. So that's going to
I
be
don't
something.
think that necessarily matters right now. I don't feel like it does, but maybe I'm wrong.
Well, they've got a few turns. It's not like it's going to be over immediately. They've got probably 2 turns left. And it's not like Phoenix can A-space because with the size of the units on A-Boss's side, it could be like 1 removal spell away from an Alpha Strike, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because A-Boss doesn't necessarily have to block anything, depending on the attack.
Gotcha.
That's 20. I don't know how big that flyer is. It's a 10. Oh, it adds lifesteal. Oof. That's something. Alright. That is not going to do it. I think that probably seals the deal. But we'll see. We've seen greater comebacks, right? Random comeback from 2 life.
Yep, even today. Yep. So goes in there, block any which way they want. Yeah, fair share of easy good blocks here.
Yeah, it's just a matter of like which easy block do you want to take? Or do you want to just trade there?
Yeah, that's what I was looking at. I don't see the reason to keep that.
I guess there's a reason to like put the little seed in the discard pile for I guess a Shoal Stirrings. I don't know about that though. Ooh. There we go. If I'm correct, this Flying Mandrake says when it goes to their void, not when it dies. But let me check real quick. Looking at Phoenix's deck. So Clinging Scavenger says when a unit goes to your void, which means that if this eavesdrop happens, that scavenger is going to get +X, where X is the number of units moving to the void.
I don't think there was that many though, right?
We're also triggering the vines.
Oh yeah, okay.
So I've got to imagine that you may want to do that first, depending on how many you're going to hit. But I still can't see how big it is because of the overlay.
We'll find out here in a minute. Send a message.
I mean, that's a card, right? Is it a fast
Yeah,
spell?
I remember that card being.
Spell? Yeah.
I remember that card being broken at one point, right? I forgot what meta it was, but there was a point where that card was just busted. Wasn't it with one of the shadow cards or whatever, the ones that you didn't see what was on the board? Maybe I'm mistaken.
I believe that saw play in the the chicken meta. With
Yes,
the Granahan,
yes,
that,
yep. 1913. Huh.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
It's pretty solid.
2014 lifesteal. So case in
that
point.
That is it.
Yeah, 34
Congratulations,
to 8.
A-Boss on your top 8. And then congratulations, Phoenix, on your top 4.
Well played, well played.
Let's take a look at the top 4 bracket and see who moved on. Okay, so Marvin moves on past almost, repeating the victory from earlier. Lord Perth beat out Spifferific, so we're not going to see any more Valkyries.
No.
That means Lord Perth and Marvin are both on that Skycrag deck, so if
nice.
Random can revenge through Lord Perth, maybe Random can win this whole thing.